So, welcome, John, to this afternoon session.
Hi, John.
Hi again. Any thoughts on today's lesson, today's quote? Did you enjoy today's quote? Let me share my
I
screen.
do. I like today's lesson. It's nice, and it really expresses gets to the root of the importance of forgiveness. And yes, Mark Twain gets it. I like his
fragrance.
I like his the way he alludes to the heel that crushed it.
It's one of the most powerful quotes I've seen on forgiveness. So how we should respond to anyone. So actually, it's interesting if you look deeper into that quote. In order for the fragrance of the violet to come out, it has to be crushed.
Yes, indeed.
To fully come out, it has to be crushed. So it's almost like through the forgiveness lessons we get, we have to. That's what's going to cause us to really go deeper into our essence and find that presence, which is the fragrance of the divine in our lives. And it not only, but one of the primary ways that it arises in people is through difficulty, which they have to overcome. So it's actually quite a profound quote on got a deeper level to it as well. So for the state of loving, the fragrance is the love that comes from our source. So forgiveness restores our mind to a state of loving that person or people, which is the fragrance that we shed upon them. So I mentioned here, because I mentioned this last night, the difference between radical forgiveness, and mock forgiveness. Did you read this a little bit this morning?
Yeah, just now actually. Yeah.
So radical forgiveness denies that any harm really occurred. Somebody says nothing has really happened, and the root of the problem, which is my belief in separation. That's the root of the problem, right? Our perceptual problem is we believe that separation is true and real, and that creates all of the other problems. So you deny it at the root. You simply say this never happened. Simply denies it in all its forms, including attack and death. And that was really the master teaching of Jesus in the crucifixion. It doesn't matter that you're being physically attacked and killed, still nothing has really happened. So there's no justification for anger or resentment or revenge thoughts or attack thoughts in any way. So that's what radical forgiveness does. And that might take some time to get to really get to that point where you've said, okay, this never really happened, and I've dropped it all. So this idea of halfway or mock forgiveness can be useful because it's a step in the right direction. So someone saying, okay, I accept that I still think this has happened, but I soften my judgment by having compassion for the perpetrators, by saying, okay, well, I understand that, they did the best they could, because everyone does in that situation. Everyone does the best they can with what they know at the time. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. It's kind of self-evident. And they may have had traumatic experiences themselves. So, let's say I used the example of abuse. I've been abused as a child, but then the person who's done that was also abused. They have their own. And so by understanding that, my mind kind of softens its judgment because I understand that they've also suffered. It still makes suffering real, which is why it's not radical forgiveness. But it does get you out of that very harsh, ego-based, well, this has happened to me, and I'm the victim of this, and this person's the perpetrator, and they're the guilty ones. It kind of softens that and starts to say, well, they're also victims in a way. Everyone here has suffered, and so they're behaving this way because of their suffering. So it's a start, and so I included it in the 10-step process. But it's only halfway. You haven't gone the whole way with it yet.
Yeah.
To actually totally radically forgive means you get to the point where you say, well, this never really happened, and an acceptance of it, an emotional acceptance of that really. That's really the key. So the abstract reasoning is part of it. To be able to understand what he's saying on a high level is certainly a part of it. But then it's the letting go of the emotions.
Yeah.
The deep-seated emotions. That's probably the biggest challenge. And not metaphysically ghosting over it. So what David Hoffmeister would say was, well, you can metaphysically ghost over stuff, which means that you go, oh, well, it's not real, it's an illusion, it never really happened. But I haven't actually looked and gone into those emotions and really processed them and released them. It's just happening at a fairly superficial intellectual level. Because that's the challenge with this path, is to go into the emotions, which are often very deep-seated and dark and difficult to deal with, and then undo it at that level and say, okay, this never really happened, and I can just release those. I can, because of this knowledge that only God is real, only love is real, I can release those and I can be free of them. And so although I still have a memory in my mind of maybe the situation, if it's a past experience, I don't hold on to that, to the emotion. And that's really the level we need to go to with this. And that is a process. It can take years. If it's some deep-seated trauma, it can take someone years of this kind of work, of looking at it and then considering the metaphysics of something like A Course in Miracles, and then it arises again in another form, and then looking at it again, and just cleaning the mind at a deeper and deeper level each time. But ultimately, once you really get it, at enlightenment, you go, this was just a dream. The dream of form was fake. It was never real. So nothing that seemed to happen had really happened. And therefore only perfect love or oneness or pure formless awareness is real. Which is the love of God that's being pointed to here in today's quote. Okay, there's a little bonus session there for you if you want to go and that about really how to just approach this COVID idea from the perspective of radical forgiveness. That's really the key, because that's what it's for. You might need to understand, the understanding on the surface level of what's happening, and okay, all is not what it seems, is part of that awakening. I'd encourage people to go, okay, well, let's start questioning, understanding what's really happening. Because if you believe that it's all true, then there's no waking up from that. You believe it's true, your belief is fixed. So the research and the questioning are part of the undoing. But just stopping there and going, okay, well, yes, it's a conspiracy to control the world is not the point. The point is to then go, okay, but actually what's behind that? Okay, well, I understand the ego's thought system, which is all about control, fear, domination, and so on. So this is really just the ego playing itself out in the world. And I have a choice here to either let it go completely, radically forgive it, as with everything else, and find the peace of God that passes all understanding beyond it. Or I can get stuck at that level. Oh, well, it's a conspiracy theory and it's real, and then I'm still making it real, and I fear it.
Yeah.
And so, and I know a lot of conspiracy theorists who are very fearful.
Yeah.
Which is not the point, So whether you're fearing it because of the conventional interpretation, or because you think it's a conspiracy that's designed to enslave the world, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's still fear of something that's an illusion.
Mm.
But you got to start somewhere. So like often just the exploration into truth on the physical level, on the level of form, is part of people's awakening. Unless you're willing to go there and say, okay, well maybe the story that we're being told is not true. And how can you go even beyond that to the next level of undoing, which is like, okay, but maybe the whole thing, the entire dream is not true. It's like levels of awakening. So that's usually how people start. They start questioning the standard model of life, and then what they're being told, the interpretation of of kind of the conventional interpretation of things in society. And then they might go into like, okay, well maybe I need to consider the conspiracy theories and so on. But then don't get stopped
No,
there,
no.
because that's then just the ego going, okay, well I'll get you in another way. I'll get you on that and make it real in your mind and justify fear in that way. So the radical forgiveness, just like we talked about halfway and mock forgiveness, it's the same thing. Don't get stuck halfway. Go the whole way and say, well, ultimately Jesus is saying that this is not, none of it is true. COVID pandemics, whatever the cause of it is, it's all not true. And so the Holy Spirit's only interpretation of that is to say, well, it's not true.
Mm.
And only God is true, only love is real, which then is the way out of all of it, whatever delusions are there. And this video is quite interesting. I think Sue actually mentioned it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, she did, and I said, oh well, that's coming up
Mm.
later on in the year. And so these guys had a chat. I mean, there's stuff in there that's not entirely true. Remember this chap who's the host saying, "Oh well, actually, we want to keep the whole game going. We're doing this, so we want to keep talking about the game of the human life, and we want to keep the whole game going." I was like, no, that's not the point. The point is to escape the game. But this guy, who's a doctor, sort of more enlightened doctor, made two good points about this pandemic. He said there are two primary emotions that are are being used to perpetuate it: guilt and fear.
Yeah.
So guilt is the fear probably primarily fear for my own safety, fear for the safety of my loved ones. Therefore, okay, I need to do something. Therefore, I'll take the vaccine. That's the sequence of logic. And then guilt, because if I don't do it, then I'm letting the team down. This idea of herd immunity. I'm not playing my part. I'm the only one who's not. I'm endangering everyone else. So then I feel guilty. And all of that is actually designed to take away our individual choice, which is the foundation of any spiritual awakening. You must choose. You must choose. You can't let someone else choose for you.
Yeah.
You can't let a government choose for you. So it's interesting because if you look at human rights around the world, actually, although we talking about oneness here and unity, human rights are most respected in countries where the individual has free choice, where they're not being forced. They have quite a high degree of choice about their choices, which seems to be a paradox. Because we're all about oneness, but the oneness of the ego is a group thing that's designed to stop you making a choice that runs counter to the ego's program. So that's why the two correlate: individual choice, so-called free will, and human rights, because individual choice is what any spiritual awakening is about. Is coming into your power as a sovereign being who has choice, and you can choose how you want to perceive anything. You can choose your actions, and of course, that's the opposite of any kind of system of control and tyranny, where they're trying to take away your free choice and say, no, we'll choose for you. So that's an interesting point as well, I think, and that's worth watching. I started at the point where they get to the stuff about guilt and fear. So
Okay, good.
because it's an hour, so you might only want to watch 5 or 10 minutes of it, when they get to the really metaphysically. What I'm always interested in is the metaphysics, like what's behind this. Okay, well, if guilt and fear are behind anything, then that's the ego. The ego is sponsoring that whole thing, and it's a game of smoke and mirrors. It's showing you all of this to convince you that it's true, and to convince you that this thought system of guilt and fear are real. And that's really what the miracle worker starts seeing. You just start seeing very clearly that this is just a setup. The ego is trying to get me to believe in its thought system through whatever is projected onto the screen of time and space. So whether it's a COVID pandemic, a war in the Ukraine, a conflict with a friend, an illness, whatever it is, it's trying to get me to believe in its story. And as a miracle worker, I have to avoid that temptation and simply say, no, this is not true. And it sounds awfully simple, but it's the difficulty of this awakening is to hold to that position no matter what.
Yeah.
That's the radical forgiveness. No matter what, I'm not going to make this real in my mind. And we make it real the moment we judge it, and then we have emotions about it. That makes it real in our mind. Now we're not in pure formless awareness anymore. We've got something else going on in our mind, which is exactly what the ego wants. Okay, so that brings us to the lesson.
Yep, good.
For today, do you want to read the main idea and paragraph 1?
Yeah, God, pure formless awareness, is the love in which I forgive. God does not forgive because he is never condemned.
You want to do the translation as you go?
Oh, yeah. God, pure formless awareness, does not forgive because it is never condemned. And there must be condemnation before forgiveness is necessary. Forgiveness is the great need of this world, but that is because it is a world of illusions. Those who forgive are thus releasing themselves from illusions, while those who withhold forgiveness are binding themselves to them. As you condemn only yourself, so do you forgive only yourself. I think that paragraph makes all sense. I think the last sentence is the core element. As you condemn only yourself, so do you forgive only yourself. I think that's the difficult one. That's the most difficult sentence in that I kind of struggle, because seeing it all as being myself, that the whole story is, the whole thing is happening within myself, is a place that I'm not yet at. I mean, I understand I understand everything before. I understand the illusion bit, the importance of forgiveness. Get really taking in that notion of it is only condemning myself, and therefore forgiving myself is the challenging bit.
Well, think of it this way, when you have any kind of condemnation in your mind, it's not a nice feeling, is it? If you're angry towards someone, you're condemning them. You have this not very nice feeling of resistance. It certainly doesn't feel loving. It feels quite limiting, quite stuck. It's not actually a pleasant state. So if you just look at your state of mind when you're judging and condemning anyone, you'll see immediately that you're condemning yourself, because you're condemning yourself to experience that state of mind rather than pure formless awareness in that moment.
Yeah.
You see that?
Get that.
So it's kind of self-evident. It's like, well, if you're experiencing condemnation in any way, shape, or form, even if it's apparently condemning someone else, then actually that energy is in you. You're experiencing that energy of condemnation, which doesn't feel good. It feels very, very unpleasant, actually, if you're honest. So then you're condemning yourself because you are outside now of the kingdom. You're not in a state of pure formless awareness.
Yeah.
You're in another mentally and emotionally turbulated state that's disturbing your peace. And so you're condemning yourself to that state of mind by projecting your condemnation onto someone else.
I mean, there's only one or two people that I really have that come to mind that I struggle to forgive, and in many ways, I actually forgive them. You know, when I go through it, I forgive them. There's still a residual unwilling. There's still a residual element left that. I mean, I'm not condemning them. I don't think. I think I'm forgiving them, but there's still a feeling there of not moving on. You know, I mean, when I've had upsets with many others, I can see that I've moved on, they've moved on, and we're both in a different place. You know? But there are one or two, you know, lifetime challenges that I'm still aware that I haven't. I'm not. I don't think I'm, in a way, not. I don't bemoan them. I don't criticize them, and in many ways I forgive them, but there's still that residual element of something that is just a bit like a ball and chain, just doesn't fall off. So maybe, yeah. So maybe that's where I'm lacking in this, seeing it as within myself.
Yeah, well, remember, another way of looking at this is forgiveness isn't really forgiving the other person. Forgiveness is letting go of your negative thoughts and emotions that are triggered by that person, by that situation.
Yeah.
So forgiving only yourself, what does that actually mean?
Yes.
It means you've let go of any negativity that you're experiencing in that situation. So the situation was just a trigger for the negativity to arise, and it's arising from your own mind, from your subconscious mind, which is where the ego resides mostly. So it's to let go of that thought and emotion. It has nothing to do with the other person, really.
No.
It's about your own willingness or unwillingness to let that go. And we hold on to these things because the ego does not want you to go fully into love, into the state of love and pure formless awareness. So it's holding on because that's a little block. It's another block to awareness of love's presence, which will keep you away from the divine, and that maintains its separate identity. Even one of those, one little thing in your mind, then you're outside of the kingdom. You're not in pure formless awareness because you've got something else going on.
Yeah.
So think of it like next time it arises, it's got nothing to do with the person.
Yeah.
It's actually my own feeling, thought and feeling. And then you go into that and you can do a meditation on it. You could use a lesson with it. Go into the feeling in your mind and really try and let go of that feeling, whatever that feeling is, that resistance. You could call it some anger, some resentment, whatever you label it. But it's in the end, it's a feeling in your mind, and maybe you feel it. It shows up as sensations in the body. So you just go, okay, I'm willing to be aware of that feeling, and my only job is to let go of this feeling. That's really forgiving myself. And so using, a lesson, using breath work, and releasing that feeling is how you undo it.
Yes.
So maybe just really narrow in the next time it arises on that feeling. Say, okay, so let me just work with this feeling. Start with an observation, meditation. You observe it. Okay, what does this feeling feel like? Okay, and then you observe it. Okay, it doesn't feel that pleasant. I feel a little bit. And I'm not at ease. It feels, whatever. You look at it very clearly, and then you say to yourself, am I willing to let this feeling go? Because this feeling is clearly blocking my awareness of love. I'm not in a loving state now. This feeling has covered that state over. So am I willing to let the feeling go? And then you're getting very specific. You're taking it away from the person. It's nothing to do with the person at all.
Yeah.
It's your own inner feeling, your own resistance that the ego has just brought up. It's been triggered by the situation and the person, but actually it's a block in your own mind. And if you can just work on that feeling and start transmuting it and releasing that feeling, and finding the awareness beyond it, that there's this pure formless awareness that lies beyond that block, and it really does feel like a block, it doesn't it? It's like a resistance.
Yeah, it is. It's like a curious kind of stone weight, which I don't associate necessarily with the person at all, actually. But it's still there.
So maybe it just needs some deep processing. You go into it in a meditation. Use the 10-step meditation that you do in the really go, okay, let me work with this. Let me bring up the feeling. So you might think of the person, because that triggers the feeling. That's the idea. The person is actually irrelevant, but it's the trigger for the feeling to arise. And then you work through the feeling.
Yeah.
In that process. And, the more that you let that feeling go, and you feel like, oh, okay, actually, I have, at the end of the meditation, I have actually released some of that. It's feeling lighter. You might have to do that many times, but you're cleaning that feeling away. You're undoing that feeling. And so you're forgiving yourself in this language. You forgive only yourself because you're releasing the feeling in your own mind. You're releasing the block to the awareness of love's presence in your own mind. And then once you do that, you open up to love. So hence God is the love in which I forgive. So that love is the foundation of all of this. That state of mind is the foundation of letting go, because you're letting go so that you can experience that love. Allow that love to flow into your mind. Okay, happy with number 1?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
And number 2?
Yet, although God does forgive, his love is nevertheless the basis of forgiveness. Fear condemns and love forgives. Forgiveness thus undoes what fear has produced, returning the mind to the awareness of God. For this reason, forgiveness can truly be called salvation. It is the means by which illusions disappear.
Okay.
It's pointing out here that, God doesn't even know what forgiveness is, but his love is the foundation of the forgiveness that we need to employ in this world of illusions to free ourselves.
Yeah. So if you translate God as, read that first sentence and read it as pure formless awareness.
Yet although God, pure formless awareness, does not forgive, his love is nevertheless the basis of forgiveness. Its love is nevertheless the basis of forgiveness.
So it's this base state, it's the ground of being, without which you would have no awareness at all. And so it's that base state that you're returning your mind to when you let go or forgive something that's blocking that awareness.
Yeah.
So removing the blocks clears the way for that awareness to arise in your mind. So although pure formless awareness has no knowledge of any sin, of anything that's wrong, it's the foundation, because it's what you're going back to.
Yeah.
You let go, then that's what's going to be left. It's when you've let go of everything else, you cut everything else away, then guided or pure formless awareness is what's going to be left. So that's the basis then of forgiveness, because you're returning your mind to that state. And the ego is going to tell you this is hell. You're going into some kind of non-existence. But actually, that's totally not true.
Yeah.
The ego's covering over of that pure formless awareness is hell. And releasing the ego's blocks and returning your mind to its original state of love is heaven. And there's no compromising on that point. You can't compromise this or fudge this. It's going to be one or the other. Fear condemns. So the blocks which fear the world, fear what's outside based on projection, condemns you to a state of hell. You're going to continuously be mentally and emotionally turbulated. And love gives.
Yeah.
Love is the base state that underlies it all. Forgiveness thus undoes what fear has produced, returning the mind to the awareness of God or love. So returning the mind to the awareness of pure formless awareness. Returning the mind to the awareness of what it is. That's what it is. It's only that awareness.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So think about it. That's why I use letting go instead of forgiveness. In fact, translate. This might be useful. Why don't you read, seeing as it's very short, read those first two paragraphs and put in pure formless awareness for God, and forgiveness put in letting go, and see how that reads.
Pure formless awareness does not let go because it is never condemned. And there must be condemnation before letting go is necessary. Letting go is the great need of this world, but that is because it is a world of illusions. Those who let go are thus releasing themselves from illusions, while those who withhold are binding themselves to them. As you condemn only yourself, so do you forgive only yourself.
Okay, so those last two, if you're going to translate it as letting go, so those who let go are thus releasing themselves from illusions, while those who don't let go, withhold forgiveness would be don't let go. While those who don't let go are binding themselves to them.
Yeah.
As you condemn only yourself, so do you let go. You just have to do a bit of translation. So do you let go only of your own blocks. Forgive only yourself means you let go of the blocks in your own mind to the awareness of love's presence.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it just because often like you forgive yourself, I think as you say, a lot of people just don't really know what that even means.
No. It's a difficult concept.
But if you state it in simple terms, you say, well, look, it's letting go of the thoughts and emotions that are not love. And you're dropping whatever that thought and that feeling is, and you let that go. Well, that's what forgiving yourself really means. So what I like about the language is it just directs you very, very directly to what's needed, to what you need to do. Whereas forgiving yourself, you can spend years wondering what that actually means and not doing it as a result. Okay, and then number 2. Going inside.
Yeah, I think I'm keep losing it. I'll be right back.
No problem. Okay. So shall we continue?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's. I think that was useful, John. I mean, this thing of forgiving oneself is such a core principle, such a core.
Well, that's what it all comes down to.
Mm,
If you've still got the ego in your mind, then you haven't forgiven yourself. But the language is important, because if you say, well, I'm forgiving myself, and you're not really sure what that means or how to do it, then you don't do it.
you won't get it. No.
You won't get it. So read number 2 again, paragraph 2, and translate forgiveness as letting go. Forgive is to
Yeah.
let go. God is pure formless awareness. And it just, for me, it just really changes it and clarifies it.
Yeah. Yet, although pure formless awareness does not forgive,
Does
it
not let go.
oh, God, yeah.
I've got to concentrate. I
Yeah,
must I must
yeah, yeah,
write
yeah,
it in.
yeah,
I must actually
yeah,
write it in. I'll write
yeah.
these translations in. I
Well,
just
okay. No,
forgot.
no. Let me get it.
Yeah.
Yet, although pure formless awareness does not let go, its love is nevertheless the basis of letting go.
Yeah.
Fear condemns and love forgives. Letting go thus undoes what fear has produced, returning the mind to the awareness of pure formless awareness. For this reason, letting go can truly be called salvation. It is the means by which illusions disappear. Yeah.
Does that make a bit more sense?
It does. It takes it a step further. Yeah.
Hmm.
It just eases the message. Um, it eases the digestion of the message.
Yeah.
Want of a better word.
Yeah. It's being very clear and direct. The danger with language, if it's fuzzy and people are not clear what it actually means. Although, I mean, it's very poetic. These are beautiful lines. They're written beautifully, and probably sounds better if you say forgiveness than letting go. But letting go points you to the direct thing that you've got to do. It's like, okay, letting go. I've got to let go of my own stuff. I can't let go of someone else's stuff.
No.
And I forgive you. Well, what does that actually mean? But
Mm,
no, I let go of my own negative thoughts and emotions that I'm feeling in response to you, that are triggered by you,
mm,
but they are mine. I'm experiencing this state of not being in pure formless awareness. So that's the condemnation of yourself. You condemn yourself to a state of hell, the helpless, enervated little life of the ego that's separate from pure formless awareness, when you think these thoughts. So
yeah.
then it becomes self-evident. Yes, I'm condemning myself here to a state of mind which is not love.
Mm,
Now, why would I want to do that when I could have pure formless awareness and only that in my mind?
mm,
Doesn't make any sense. So my only job is to let go of these blocks to the awareness of love's presence that present in my mind. Whatever the trigger is, the triggers don't really matter. Triggers are the illusions. But what's useful with a trigger is it brings it up in your mind. So now it comes into awareness so
yeah.
that you can look at it again and go into the feeling of it and release that feeling
Mm,
using a forgiveness process. So meditation is very helpful for releasing that feeling. Breath work, these are practices that help you to let go of the feeling
mm,
in your own mind and dissipate it, and find that underlying awareness, the pure formless awareness that underlies all of this, which is then the basis for forgiveness, because that is the foundation that you're returning your mind to. So if you look at it from this letting go perspective, it just it makes complete sense. It's so clear to me. And when I started like really understanding the course was when I started doing these kinds of translations and going, okay, so it's actually letting go. Okay, so let's get very clear and specific about the language. What are you actually doing here when you're forgiving yourself? and let's explain it in other language so that it makes it very clear what you have to do. There's no ambiguity there, because if you're not clear about what you have to do, then you won't do it. Okay, so any further comments or thoughts on that lesson? We're going to practice now, so we can go into a meditation now if you like, or we can wait and do it at the end of the session.
I'd rather wait and do it at the end, actually.
Okay, no problem. And we might have someone joining us. You never know, maybe Iona or Lucy or someone else might join. So all right, so let's get into the text reading then. So this one is called Healing as the Recognition of Truth.
Yeah, I like this one.
Have you read it already?
Yeah.
Okay. So 7 paragraphs, not too long. So do you want to start with paragraph 1?
Yeah. Healing and the changelessness of mind.
No.
Oh.
Healing is the recognition of truth.
Healing is a recognition. Actually, I'm on the wrong.
Number 4.
Ah, yes.
In section 4, chapter 7.
Yes. I'm preempting myself. Yeah. Okay, good. Healing as a recognition of truth. Truth can only be recognized and need only be recognized. Inspiration is of the Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness, and certainty is of God, pure formless awareness, according to its laws. Both therefore come from the same source, since inspiration comes from the voice for pure formless awareness, and certainty comes from the laws of pure formless awareness. Healing does not come directly from pure formless awareness, who knows its creations as perfectly whole. Yet healing is still of pure formless awareness, God, because it proceeds from his voice and from his laws.
From its voice and from its laws.
It's his voice, its voice and its laws. It is their result. It is their result in a state of mind that does not know it. The state is unknown to it and therefore does not exist. But those who sleep are unaware. Because they are unaware, they do not know.
Okay, so a bit to unpack there. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Anything stand out for you?
Yeah, just having another look at it. I mean, that first sentence, truth can only be recognized and need only be recognized. Truth can only be recognized and need only be recognized. So what it's saying here is that truth has to be held up to the light, has to be completely acknowledged, or is pure unto itself. Inspiration.
Remember, recognize means recognized.
So
it's
reformulated. Actually, yeah.
Well, the thought about again, recognized means that you're just recognizing it. You're thinking about it and not denying it. To recognize meaning. Let's have a look. Identify someone from having encountered them before. To know again. Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
To acknowledge the existence, validity, or legality of. So if you look at those, identify someone or something from having encountered them before. Well, we've encountered truth before, we just denied it.
Yeah.
So it's identify it again, to know it again, because we once knew it, and then acknowledge the existence and validity of again. So it's going back to what we once knew and remembering. Recognition implies a remembering of what we once knew. Which has been denied but can be recognized or remembered.
Yes, that's a good way of phrasing it. Recognized. Yeah. It takes us back to the fact that we did know what it was.
Yeah, what was once known.
Or have known.
To know again. So it's a recognition of it. We've denied it from our awareness, but it was once in our awareness. And so we can go back to that awareness. Truth is not new to us. It's just we've denied it and gone on a mind trip of delusion. And now this whole process is a recognition of this truth that we once knew and then threw away and denied.
Yeah. Okay, good.
All right, so inspiration.
Inspiration of the heart. Inspiration is of the awareness of oneness. So the awareness of oneness is the source of inspiration. Okay, so when we are aware of oneness, we can be, when we are in that state, we can then open up to inspiration.
Inspiration comes from pure formless awareness, right? Again, look at the root of the in spirit. What is the spirit? The spirit is pure formless awareness. The spirit has no form. It's simply the awareness of this awareness. So inspiration is of the remembrance of pure formless awareness. Well, that makes complete sense if you translate it as remembrance of pure formless awareness. Is now the remembrance of this spirit, this awareness. Spirit is the same as this pure formless awareness. That's has no form. It's intangible, but it's an awareness arising in your mind. And certainty is of God. Certainty is of the state of pure formless awareness according to its laws. So in pure formless awareness, we are absolutely certain. There is no doubt. There is only the law of oneness there that's true. And the remembrance, it might be more useful to translate this as remembrance. Inspiration is of the remembrance of pure formless awareness, or the remembrance of oneness.
Yes.
Inspiration is of the remembrance of oneness. That's where it comes from. So we remember that principle that we chose to forget, because we denied oneness when we accepted separation into our minds. And certainty is of pure formless awareness according to its laws. So remembrance of oneness returns us to a state of pure formless awareness in which only oneness is true. The only law of God or pure formless awareness is that everything is perfectly one.
And what are the laws of God?
Well,
the laws of formless awareness.
The laws of God are that everything is perfectly one. There is no separation.
Yeah.
There's only one law. Oneness is the law. Okay, and so those laws of God, or laws of pure formless awareness, he speaks of laws because it's how we then interpret these in this world of form.
Yeah.
We say, okay, well, these are the laws of God that are now applied to this world, and these show up in many ways. Like one of the laws of God is as you give, you receive. That's a law based on the idea of oneness. That follows from that law, from that principle of oneness. You see, as you give, you receive.
Yeah.
Another one would be you teach what you need to learn. As you teach, so you learn. That's a law of God. It's a law that comes from oneness. Another law would be as you forgive yourself, as you forgive others, so you forgive yourself. These are the laws that he's teaching us. So basically the reinterpretation of the ego's dream world from the perspective of oneness. And those are the laws of God that then come into the world and give you a different foundation on which to base your life. It's a different thought system, isn't it? It's seeing things completely differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the Holy Spirit does. The remembrance of oneness reinterprets this world, and it gives you other laws than this world's laws that counter the ego's laws. The laws of God are always in opposition to the ego's laws. Okay, and then healing.
Yeah.
Healing does not come directly from God, from pure formless awareness, which knows its creations as perfectly whole. Okay? So pure formless awareness only knows itself as perfectly whole. It's one unified state of mind. Yet healing is still of pure formless awareness because it proceeds from its voice and from its laws. So the principle of oneness, which then gets expressed in this voice of the Holy Spirit, which is the remembrance of oneness, and the laws, the reinterpretation of the ego's laws from this perspective of oneness, then healing is proceeds from those. Because healing is a transformation of the mind from a state of separation to a state of oneness. That's what healing means.
Yes, that's good. That's a good word. I like that definition. Can we put that one in the glossary?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm not sure we have a definition for healing. GH, yeah, only instant. Where are we? So it's
after heaven.
No, before heaven.
Yes.
Out before V. Healing is the
transformation.
correction of the mind. Correction or transformation. Belief in separation to the belief in oneness / love. Would you say that's happy with that? Because transformation again can be, it's a correction really.
Yeah, no, that's good.
The correction of the mind's belief in separation to the belief in oneness or love, and which may have physical effect.
Yes.
So it's not primarily about healing the body. A lot of people think of healing as, well, I'm healing the sickness of the body.
Actually,
may have physical effects and result in physical healing or not.
Yeah. Actually, whilst we're in the glossary, John, can we put in free will?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for the forgiveness.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So free element OPQR. So free will would go after this.
I think the box is doing something similar, something a bit funny, because Father's gone into the E.
Yeah. Maybe if I put it somewhere there, we'll just do that. Maybe it might be better. Free will. So how would you define free will then?
The ability to make one's own decisions.
No, I would say in the Course's terms, he defines free will as the will that is united. That is united with the will of God.
Oh, did it? Is that? I didn't realize that. Right.
Yeah.
I always thought free will was associated with separation and the ability to make our own decisions and do.
But as Jesus always has a different perspective on it. That's the ego's interpretation. But the will, your will is only free when it's united with the will of God or love or oneness. We need to. There's actually a section we did some sections recently where it is, but let's. I'm sure that's going to come up soon in the course. And we can revisit those sections as well at some point. Would you like to do that now, or should we move on?
No, let's move on. We've got a lot.
Will that is united with the will of God. So he's saying your will is not free unless it's actually united with your true will. So the so-called free will of the ego, the will that can do something else other than the will of God, is not really free at all. In fact, it's imprisoned will.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Has relinquished its desire for separation. Its desire to be separate. So the ego is telling us this is free will, to have your own mind, make your own choices. And Jesus is saying, no, that's not free at all. In fact, your mind is imprisoned by itself when you think you have free will and you have the ability to make your own choices outside of the will of God. And that, because it's very confusing, that creates a lot of fear, a lot of confusion. So, what's true and what's not then? And we always have choice. Free will is associated with choice. Well, in heaven, there is no choice. So true free will, we could say, is pure formless awareness. So all of these terms, they just point to the same place all the time, don't they? It's like we've got a language, but it all points back to God. That's what you start seeing, back to the state of pure formless awareness.
Thanks for that.
So, is a result in a state of mind that does not know itself. So healing comes as a result, a state of mind that does not know it, does not know pure formless awareness. State is unknown to it because pure formless awareness has no knowledge of it and therefore does not exist. But those who sleep are unaware. Because they are unaware, they do not know. So they're unaware of what they really are. So result, and let's quote from the Course, the state of mind that does not know. All right. right.
I'm not sure why that second sentence is in there, John.
It is their result.
Is what do you mean by their result?
Yeah, well, it's from his laws. Healing is their result, the laws of God. It proceeds from his voice and from his laws. It is, so say, it is the result of applying the laws of God / oneness in a state of mind that does not know. So we apply the laws, and then healing happens because we apply the laws. And as we apply these laws, we remember.
Yeah.
Remember oneness.
Isn't it sufficient just to say it is the result of applying the laws of God oneness?
Well, I just quoted from this directly. So let's go refer to. So then this glossary, you can then use it as a reference to parts in the course. I think that would be helpful.
Hmm.
So you can go and read that, refer to paragraph 1 of, what is this, section 7, section 4. Chapter 7. Okay. So shall we move on to number 2?
The Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness, must work through you to teach you it is in you. This is an intermediary step toward the knowledge that you are in Pure Formless Awareness, God, because you are part of it, Him. The miracles the awareness of oneness Holy Spirit inspires can have no order of difficulty, because every part of creation is of one order. This is Pure Formless Awareness's God's will and yours.
Love's will might be a smoother translation.
This is love's will. Yeah, okay. This is love's will and yours. The laws of Pure Formless Awareness establish this, and the awareness of oneness reminds you of it. When you heal, you are remembering the laws of Pure Formless Awareness and forgetting the laws of the ego. I said before that forgetting is merely a way of remembering better. It's an interesting statement. When I read this the first time, I thought, oh, blimey, what's that about? I said before that forgetting is merely a way of remembering better. I guess what he's saying here is that forgetting is part of the process of letting go of the ego.
Yeah, you must forget the ego to remember the truth. So
yeah.
forgetting is letting go.
Yes, okay.
False thought system that's blocking the remembrance of the truth.
It is
therefore not the
therefore
opposite of remembering when it's properly perceived. That's interesting.
Yes, it is therefore not the opposite of remembering, not the opposite of remembering when it is properly perceived. Okay, yeah. Perceived improperly, it induces a perception of conflict with something else, as all incorrect perception does. Properly perceived, it can be used as a way out of conflict, as all proper perception can.
Okay, so any stand out for you in that?
So number 9, perceived improperly. So he's talking about forgetting there, is he? It induces a perception of conflict. Okay, so now say that forgetting. Perceived improperly, it induces a perception of conflict with something else, as all incorrect perception does. Properly perceived, i.e. without the ego, it can be used as a way out of conflict.
So the ego is going to tell you, if you forget its laws, it's going to have a lot of resistance to that, and there's going to be a sense of conflict. Because I'm trying to now forget the laws of the ego and remember the laws of spirit, and it's going to say, no, this isn't. Oh, there's Iona. Thought she might join us. So the ego will induce a perception of conflict here with something else. Whereas the spirit will simply say, no, there's no conflict here, because forgetting the laws of the ego is remembering the laws of oneness, and those are the only laws that are true. So there's absolutely no conflict there. Only if we still attach to the ego and its way of seeing things, that we'll perceive that forgetting it is in any way conflicted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Say hello to Iona. Hi, Iona.
Hiya. Better late than
Iona.
Hi, John.
Yeah, welcome. We're just doing the text.
Great.
Section 4, chapter.
Okay.
So anything else in that paragraph? We're on paragraph 2. Anything else in that paragraph, John?
No, we're good with that. I'm good with that.
Okay. Do you want to give a little summary?
The way to connect, well, okay, in summary, the way to connect with the Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness, is to allow it to work through us. Inspiration comes from the awareness of oneness. And as we let go of the ego, we align ourselves more and more with truth and inspiration.
Mm-hmm. And then the healing comes from.
Yeah.
That's
and then healing is correction in the mind, which may or may not bring about physical change or improvement or.
And when you heal, you're remembering these laws of God or oneness, and forgetting the laws of the ego.
Recognizing the laws of the universe. Yeah.
Which is not actually opposite to forgetting. So as you forget the laws of the ego and remember the laws of the spirit, both of those actually work hand in glove. You can only remember when you forget. There's actually no contradiction there, because what you're forgetting is untrue. But if you're still attached to the laws of the ego, then it will seem like there's a conflict. Perceived improperly, it induces a perception of conflict with something else. That's all incorrect perception does. So as the ego is saying, well, my laws are true, and to forget them is a violation of these laws. And then we have a conflict. And what Jesus is trying to say to us is just recognize that all of this is not true. So to forget what's not true will help you remember the truth. There's no conflict there when you properly perceive it. There's a way out of conflict. In fact, you must forget in order to remember. You cannot have two thought systems or two opposite sets of laws in your mind and expect to be sane. You must forget one of them.
And
you cannot forget spirit. You cannot forget God. Impossible, because it's your foundational awareness. So then you must forget the ego.
And forgetting is merely a way of remembering better.
Yeah. So forgetting is the letting go those of your belief in those laws of the ego. And it feels initially like a conflict because you're going up against this egoic thought system that's entrenched in the world. The world is run based on the ego, so it can feel like a conflict. But if you properly perceive it, you recognize this is actually my way out of conflict. This is how I'm going to escape from the conflict. I must let go of my belief in these laws. I cannot believe these and also believe in truth. They contradict each other. Okay?
Yeah.
Happy with number 2?
Yep.
Iona, read number 3, please. You just muted.
The ego does not want to teach everyone all it has learned because that would defeat its purpose. Therefore, it does not really learn at all. The awareness of oneness teaches you to use what the ego has made to teach the opposite of what the ego has learned. The kind of learning is as irrelevant as is the particular ability that was applied to the learning. All you need do is make the effort to learn, for the awareness of oneness has a unified goal for the effort. If different abilities are applied long enough to one goal, the abilities themselves become unified. This is because they are channelized in one direction or in one way. Ultimately, then, they all contribute to one result, and by doing so, their similarity rather than their differences is emphasized.
Okay. Stand out for you there.
Yeah. It's about the ego's learning that stood out for me, and the relevance of what I think I've learned in this world, which I'm beginning to see much more clearly has come from the ego mind. He's saying that just make the effort to learn the unlearning or to see it for what it is. Is that correct? In number 5, all you need to do is make the effort to learn. His awareness of oneness has a goal for my effort. So even if I put the slightest effort in, there's a clear goal.
This is true learning only comes from the Holy Spirit, from the remembrance of oneness. If you're learning the ego's thought system, you're not really learning at all.
But you're learning a lifetime.
A lifetime spent learning nothing. You gotta laugh. It's kind of funny.
Oh God. Underneath that though, I am aware of a really kind of good grounding. I know the difference in the feeling, and I have just known at an intrinsic level, and it's been passed to me by good people along the way, the right track. Yeah.
Yeah, we do know. If we listen to our true voice, then it's saying to us along the way, no, something's not right here. Basically, something's not quite right with this. In fact, something's actually very wrong. I don't know why that's the case. I'm going to start my journey, but there's something that's not right. As Morpheus says to Neo, it's like a splinter in your mind. You can't, what is the, it's like, what is this? And it all seems to be okay and normal on the surface level of life, but there's something in you that's like, there's something that's not right in this place.
Well, like in Hamlet, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. I used to bring that phrase to mind, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but something was missing. Something was not okay.
Yeah, and so that's the remembrance of oneness in your mind, saying, look, this whole state of not just Denmark, the state of the world, the state of the universe is rotten because it's based on a rotten thought system. And so, of course, it's not going to work properly because it's a denial of the laws of God. You know, what else could you expect if you deny truth? Then this is what you get. You get a world like this.
When in number 6, when he says, if different abilities are applied long enough to one goal, the abilities themselves become unified. Does that mean no matter what kind of effort you put towards coming back to the one mind, it will ultimately be unified and helpful?
The abilities themselves become unified. So he's talking about abilities. Different abilities applied long enough to one goal. So in this world, we seem to have different abilities. You know, you have artistic ability. Someone else might have, you know, speaking, teaching ability, whatever. And in the end, he's saying if these abilities are applied long enough to one goal, the abilities themselves become unified. So actually, it comes into this the oneness of the spirit unifies all these abilities. And like so, as you journey on this path, you'll find that these abilities start to integrate more and more. So whatever abilities you have start to integrate more and more. So your ability, let's say as a teacher, your ability as an artist, that all starts to become unified in one clear direction. And in the end, you know, they become unified because there's only one purpose behind them. And it's not, oh, well, I'm an artist and I do that on its own. It's like, and maybe that's part of the reintegration that's happening. It's not separate from your ultimate purpose of awakening.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. So everything's channelized. And use this interesting word, channelized, which I don't think I've ever seen used anywhere else. I'm not sure it is even a word. Is it a word? Let's have a look. Channelized meaning. Maybe it is. Or we made it up.
It sounds like Americanism.
Yeah, channelized. Channelized meaning. Let's have a look. To channelize. Yeah, it's a North American. I guess this was given in America. So
true.
Past tense, channelized. Past participle. Another term for channel, sense one of the verb. To channelize. Okay, so it's not English, not British English, but it's American English.
Helen would have recognized it. She would.
Yeah. So channelized in one direction. So all of those abilities are going, you know, being used for one purpose. And that's when you come into your flow, into flow of your true purpose in this world. Everything is used for the one purpose of awakening. So they all contribute to one result. So doing their similarity rather than their differences is emphasized. So instead of you define yourself as an artist, let's say in your case, now I'm an artist, I have ability as an artist, and the egoic artist goes, oh, well, you know, aren't I special? I've got great ability as an artist and identify myself as an artist, and you know, this is how I define myself. Now the ego is using that ability. But you know, the inspired artist will be like, no, my art is just an ability that's useful for the spirit to communicate its message into the world, and that's I'm just a vehicle for that communication. So there's no attachment to the form of it. Oh, I'm an artist. It's just you allow it to come through, and you allow yourself to be used in for this one purpose of healing the mind, and then your other abilities start to channel there. So you do healing, some healing work and counseling work and stuff as well. You know, it could all channel into channelize in one direction. That could be quite amazing. You sort of start to integrate. This is a path of integration and wholeness, and the synergy of these abilities can be quite extraordinary if you bring them all together in the one direction. The Holy Spirit's using them all. Then you know miracles happen.
That's for sure.
That's kind of, I think, you know, you're going through a bit of discombobulation and uncertainty because it's like okay, well, the purpose needs to change. It's a repurposing of these abilities that you have for one unified goal. And how does that look? Well, you're not sure yet exactly how that looks, but things are going to, you know, shift and change and move around, and the Holy Spirit's going to reorganize it all. So that, you know, you become more useful to it. And that, that feels like change. Of course it feels like change, and it feels a bit disconcerting for the ego. It's like,
Yes.
what's happening? But remember, you must forget the laws of the ego to remember the laws of spirit.
Well, I've just had a perfect teaching. I had an appointment with my financial advisor, and I actually really like her. And it's only the second time we've met, but it's just like everything that I'm immersing myself here in this mind training and applying it to a very ego-based, financial discussion. Yeah. But actually, it was very easy. And we actually were able to talk about just the this transition time, in the broadest sense. I didn't say I was doing a mind training course, but the financial markets, the whole world she's saying, there are days when I think I don't know what to advise. I don't know what to advise. I said, well, that's wonderfully honest.
Because the system is a mess, basically. It doesn't work.
Is a grand mess. It doesn't make any difference. And anybody who says, yeah, do that, you'll be fine in 5 years. Well, she's just, peddling snake oil, and she knows that. Yeah.
You don't know. So
we don't know.
Yeah.
But I said, some months there can absolutely zero coming in, and then next month it's just like, hey, bonanza time. But I am used to living like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good grounding in terms of what is appearing in my life. As you say, when things are being channelized, I'm finding more and more experience that I've had decades ago. My God, they're coming up now. Yeah. I remember I used to be an outdoor pursuits instructor, and now, when I'm taking kids out, art in nature, and then we're doing painting in the studio, it's all coming in. So I'm reaping the benefits.
Yeah, amazing. So that's what starts to happen.
Yeah.
Like everything, your entire life, and all the abilities and the skills and so on, it can be used by the Holy Spirit in this quite miraculous way that's really deeply fulfilling. Because you go, well, this is the product of my entire life's journey. So it was all necessary. It was all part of this journey to now start to awaken and use these experiences and these abilities for this one purpose. And you're coming into that purpose now. And so, it's the most exciting time of your life, for sure.
Yeah, that's it. You're right.
That, you're really going to be very, very useful for the Holy Spirit. And in that process, you find just great joy. It's great, as you allow the Spirit to use you. It's not like, oh, I'm sacrificing anything. I experience great fulfillment and joy in that process, because I'm forgetting the ego. As you follow your purpose, you forget the laws of the ego, and you accept more and more the laws of the Holy Spirit, of oneness. And that's what he's really pointing to here in this paragraph, saying there's one unified goal. So he's talking about purpose. And if you dedicate everything to that, everything starts to integrate in this beautiful way. Like all of the different things you're doing, the abilities, it's no longer this fragmented kind of life. I mean, you've probably seen some of these teachings where they say, okay, well, your life is like a pie chart, and you have 30% is relationship, and 20% is social life, and 30% is work, this kind of, and it's just ridiculous. It's like a fragmented, that's not how it works.
No.
It all integrates into this beautiful wholeness and a oneness and a flow that you can't really segment and go, oh, well, that stops there and that starts there. It's a flow of your experience, and everything flows into that experience for the purposes of your awakening and other people's awakening. And when you're in that state, it just feels beautiful. It's a flow state.
Yeah.
And then the action is effortless. It's not like a strain. It's effortless effort. You're just doing it because you love doing it, and you're in the flow of it. And you would do it for free. The financial, you should actually do stuff that you would do for free.
Yeah.
And then figure out how to get paid for it.
Yes.
That's your ideal kind of life. So, but you got to trust that if you do, the Holy Spirit will organize the means,
It's
like
true.
on the level of form, that it will help you. If you're a servant of it, it's going to help you to do what you need to do, and that involves some financial means maybe. So then it's going to help you to do that, and you've got to just trust. And it takes a lot of faith, because the biggest hurdle in this is in following your higher purpose is usually the material. It's usually money. Oh, okay, well that doesn't pay me. So and most people don't do this because they're like, well, I've got to pay my bills. Oh, but I mean, what a limiting thought system. I've got to, my life is about paying my bills rather than about following my purpose. So it takes courage. This is the hero's journey, to really go, okay, I'm going to follow my purpose, and I'm going to trust that it's all going to work out. That on the level of the material, that the resources will be there when I need them. I don't exactly know how that's going to work, but I trust that if I really add value, which is what you're seeking to do here, this is true value, then the value will come back to you in some form as some kind of financial compensation that allows you to live and allow you to do what you're doing in the world. And this is part of the hero's journey, is overcoming these doubts and saying, I'm going to do what feels right and what's on purpose, because what else can I do? And I must trust that the outcome will ultimately be a good one. Okay. Happy with paragraph 3?
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Number 4, John?
All abilities should therefore be given over to the Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness, who understands how to use them properly. It uses them only for healing, because it knows you only as whole. By healing, you learn of wholeness. And by learning of wholeness, you learn to remember pure formless awareness, God. You have forgotten it, him. But the awareness of oneness, the Holy Spirit, understands that your forgetting must be translated into a way of remembering. You have forgotten him, but the Holy Spirit understands that your forgetting must be translated into a way of remembering. So what he's saying here is what he means here by understands that you're forgetting, which is really believing in the ego, must be transformed into a way of recognizing the truth of the situation, the truth of who we are.
So we must reinterpret the forgetting. So the ego and its world is a result of forgetting God, forgetting love. So we must retranslate that you're forgetting, okay, and all the results of your forgetting, right? That's the entire world of form, your human life, the external world. That's all came about because we forgot oneness. We forgot God. So we must translate that in our minds, this forgetting, into a way of remembering. And so that translation is the idea of forgiveness or letting go. Okay, so let go of the forgetting. You must forget the forgetting.
Yeah.
You must deny the denial of truth. In other words, deny the denial of truth. You must forget the product, all the effects of forgetting, which you see manifest in the world and in your experience. You must forget those to remember the truth. So that's why this letting go is the way. This is the way of remembering, to let go of the effects of forgetting, which is what we're effectively doing by reinterpreting the world.
because the world is the product of forgetting. So to remember the truth, we must forget the world and its laws.
Mm.
And this process of forgetting to remember is called healing. Known of wholeness. Wholeness and healing have the same root word. Wholeness, oneness, integration of the mind. You learn to remember God. You learn to remember pure formless awareness. So the principle of oneness is the only principle that will take you back to pure formless awareness. See? If you have any other principle that you believe in, then you split your mind and you cannot be in pure formless awareness.
Good.
Okay, and he's just reiterating all abilities given to the Holy Spirit, to the remembrance of oneness, who understands how to use them properly. Okay,
Yeah.
happy with number 4?
The ego's goal is as unified as the awareness of oneness, and it is because of this that their goals can never be reconciled in any way or to any extent. The ego always seeks to divide and separate. The awareness of oneness always seeks to unify and heal. As you heal, you are healed because the awareness of oneness sees no order in difficulty in healing. Healing is the way to undo the belief in differences, being the only way of perceiving the extension of pure formless awareness as one. This perception is therefore in accord with the laws of pure formless awareness, even in a state of mind that is out of accord with it. The strength of right perception is so great that it brings the mind into accord with pure formless awareness, because it serves its voice, which is in all of you. So it's another reminder that the strength of the ego's goal is so powerful. This is why this world has been formed in such a powerful way. This is as unified as awareness of oneness, but it illustrates a total inability to be reconciled. Divide and separate, unify and heal. They're just polar opposites.
You can't reconcile them.
No.
And this is all the Course is saying. He's saying, look, let's just get very clear about this. You can never reconcile these, so don't try. You've been trying forever, many, many lifetimes, to reconcile polar opposites without success. It's not working. Which is why this world is totally contradictory and always will be. There will always be this fundamental split, and it won't make sense because you've got two opposite thought systems going on at the same time with opposite laws, opposite beliefs, and now you're trying to make sense of that. And it doesn't make sense. This is why the world is a very chaotic, confused, crazy place.
Yeah.
The only thing that does make sense is oneness, which means you must deny the ego's laws to accept that.
And the belief in differences, man, woman, gay, straight, black, white, all the differences that the ego has conjured up for us to go to war about.
Undo the belief in differences. I mean, you think of how most human beings perceive. They perceive from a point of difference. They go, I'm different from you. I have a different body, but yeah, I have a different race. I have a different religion. I have a different belief system. I have a different job. I have a different country. I have a different nationality, and on it goes. And so I define myself by the difference.
by the differences, not by the unity. He's saying, well, you must undo the belief in differences. Right? These differences on the level of form do not matter.
Mm-hmm.
You see only the spirit of oneness in everyone and everything. You know, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. So you have a unified perception. It doesn't matter who the person is, what color, race, belief system, like the essence of life is in them, just as it's in you. There's no difference there. It's the same life force.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the healing of the mind, when you can really see that. This perception is in accord with the laws of God. The state of mind that is out of accord with his.
Even if the state of mind is out of accord.
And so this is the way we heal the mind. So our mind is split and we have belief in these other laws, the laws of the ego. But when we change our perception,
Of course.
then we're starting to change the state of mind. We're starting to let go of these false beliefs. The strength of right perception is so great that it brings the mind into accord with pure formless awareness, because it serves his voice, which is in all of you. So we must, the way out of this perceptual world of separation, based on separation, is right perception. We must start perceiving things in this world correctly. Because as we perceive them correctly, then we teach ourselves that only oneness is true.
Mm.
Let me just bring up this diagram. I think it might be helpful in this context. So you look at the levels of mind in this diagram. Perception is at the top of the outer edge of the circle, underpinned by belief, thought, emotion. And then at the core here, I would change this diagram and put pure formless awareness there. Because when you strip away all of this, emotion, thought, belief, what's left? Just your pure awareness, God. So this is about the strength of right perception is so great that it returns your mind to God. Well, if you change your perception of things, then you're changing your emotions, you're changing your thoughts, and you're changing your beliefs. So it's like you have to correct all of this, in order to correct your perception. You can't have a perception that doesn't have belief and thoughts and emotion that underlies it. The same by correcting perception, applying the laws of oneness. Say, okay, well, in this situation, how does oneness apply? Let's say the idea of giving and receiving. You know, that's an application of the law of oneness. As I give, I receive. That's an application of oneness in this world. So now I change my perception of a situation. I apply that law. I now must start changing what's going on underneath it. The emotion I feel is more loving, more unconditionally loving when I do that. My thought is, well, actually, I'm not really separate from this other person. And I'm not really losing as I give away. In fact, I'm gaining. So my belief now is transformed. Instead of believing in the idea of loss, giving is loss, I'm saying, well, giving is actually receiving. And then I'm going, well, actually, I'm feeling one. If I give, and I recognize that as I give, I receive, I'm returning my mind to the state of oneness with that person, because you recognize I'm really giving to myself.
Yeah.
That person is me, and I am them. And in the giving, I receive the love that I've been lacking.
Yeah.
And so it translates all the way through. And he's saying this is actually the only way you're going to do this. You've got to start with your perception, because the perception is the product of the underlying belief system, belief, thought, and emotion. So start with perception and start applying the laws of oneness to perception. This is the healing, and that is going to start correcting your emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and ultimately return the mind to its source, which is pure formless awareness that lies beyond all of these. But the laws of oneness replace the laws of the ego on these levels, right? The belief in separation must be replaced by a belief in oneness to start with. Before you can get to pure formless awareness, that's beyond belief. This is beyond belief. But before you can get there, you've got to start believing differently. And therefore thinking differently, feeling differently, and perceiving differently. Okay, does that make sense? That's
good. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to give us a little summary of number 5, and then we'll move on to 6.
The paragraph is about the polar opposite of ego and awareness of oneness. But it's about division and unification. The two shall never meet. The only way to undo belief in differences is to heal the miscreation in our minds, perceive that we're all as one mind. In order to serve the one voice which is in all of us.
It's a good summary. And the strength of right perception is so great that it brings the mind into accord with God's mind. So this is the path. He's saying the path of healing is you've got to start where you are. Start with your perceptions. You can't start at pure formless awareness because you've denied that. But you can start with how you perceive the world and people in the world, and start correcting your perceptions based on the laws of oneness, which then systematically will bring you back into eventually pure formless awareness.
It is brilliant because it's saying that no matter where you are in your life and how stuck you believe you are or whatever it is, there's always a way back. Hello.
But you can start with changing your perception of any situation.
Yeah.
And you have the power to do that anytime you choose to.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy to move on to number 6, John?
Yeah. To think you can oppose the will of God, pure formless awareness, is a real delusion. The ego believes that it can, and that it can offer you its own will as a gift. You do not want it. It is not a gift. It is nothing at all. God has given you a gift that you both have and are. When you do not use it, you forget that you have it. By not remembering it, you do not know what you have. Healing then is a way of approaching knowledge by thinking in accordance with the laws of pure formless awareness and recognizing their universality. Without this recognition, you have made the laws meaningless to you. Yet the laws are not meaningless, since all meaning is contained by them and in them. So what he's saying here is that we can't actually oppose the will of God. We might wander off into some sort of ego trip, but that is actually nothing. And by recognizing the laws of pure formless awareness, we work our way back to oneness.
And interesting. So I said I'm sure we'll get to it soon in the text, because I said when we were discussing free will earlier, said I'm sure we'll get to it. Well, yeah, he's just talked about it again.
Yeah.
In those first two sentences. The ego believes that it can oppose the will of God, and it can offer you its own, so quote, free will as well, but its own free will as a gift. This is the ego's idea of free will. But actually that is not free at all. It's imprisoned will. So we translated this in our translation. We said free will was the will that is united with the will of God, love, pure formless awareness, and has relinquished its desire to be separate. So, i.e., your free will is pure formless awareness. But free will is not, as the ego interprets free will. Oh, well, I can do my own thing. I've got my own, I can make my own choices, my own decisions. And this is how we typically think of free will. But the Course's reinterpretation is saying, no, it's not free at all. It's not a gift. It's not something you want at all. It's not a gift. It is nothing at all. So, let it go and allow this, allow God to make the decisions for you. And the way you do that is you take the laws of oneness and you apply them to this world. And change your perception accordingly and change your decisions accordingly. So you've got to, you've still got to operate while we're still in time, you've got to operate the thought system of oneness. You've got to apply it diligently to whatever you're perceiving. And that's how now God is making the decision for you through those laws, because it's a principle that's underpinning them, the principle of oneness. Anything else stand out for you there?
I get that free will, as interpreted by the ego, is a cul-de-sac, goes nowhere, because it isn't anything. I'm still struggling, though, to see that when we apply the laws of pure formless awareness, it's the word. I'm still struggling with the word free, because when we apply the laws of oneness, we are doing God's will, which, and we are extensions of God. So in that sense, we are carrying out our will, because we share that will with God.
So what are you not understanding?
The continued use of the word free.
Oh, what is free? Free is no limits. Free is without borders, without boundaries, without limits of any kind. And so that will of God is free. There are no limits. There are no borders. There are no boundaries. It's infinite. It's an eternal. So that's free. The ego's will is very limited. It's bound by all kinds of made-up laws that mean actually that it's not free.
Can we get that in the definition?
Okay. Desire to be separate. Believe in the laws of limitation. Does that help?
I think so.
So free will, I mean, I can expand on this. Free will is the will.
Free will is
that has no limits.
Yes.
Yeah. The will that knows no limits, right? It knows no limits.
Yeah.
I.e., pure formless awareness is your free will, right? There are no limits. I.e., in pure formless awareness, there is no limit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Reference. True free will is the will, let's put that knows no limits, i.e. pure formless awareness. Reference text such as and that's but isn't it interesting how this course works? Because we were talking about this randomly. You mentioned it in paragraph 2 or something.
I was kind of trying to write up what I learned from last night, actually, and the word free will. And I thought, well, And I did understand it as the ego's will.
Yes. Yeah. So
So, but when I wrote it down, I thought, oh, that doesn't feel right.
yeah.
So,
So again, the ego's always got its interpretation of these things. It's free will, and this is highly prized by the ego. Your free will is the gift that it's offering you. In fact, our Western society is largely based on the idea that I have a free will. I have an individual will. I can do what I want. I've got free choice, and this is all apparently good.
yeah.
But it creates a lot of confusion. It's
Yeah.
like I have choice, and what happens if I get it wrong? Like I'm not sure if this is going to be right. So it's actually highly overrated, because free will implies choice, and choice implies confusion. I have, well, which choice should I make?
Yeah.
Do I go to do I do that job or this job? Do I do that career or this career? Do I marry this person or this person? Do I go live there or there? And who knows? How do we know? It's very uncertain.
Yeah.
I was
Whereas
also thinking about
yeah.
it in terms of its ego does not present a free will because there's a cost.
It's actually a very imprisoned will. He says free will is actually imprisoned will, because you have all this limitation and lack and scarcity and pain and suffering in your mind. That's not free will at all. The will that's truly free is without limits of any kind. And that only pure formless awareness can give you that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking at what free really means. Free doesn't mean that you have multiple choices. Free means that you are without limit, which means that you've only made one choice. You've made the choice for non-limitation, which made the choice for what's infinite and eternal, rather than for the temporary.
Yeah. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So we got that in our definition, which continues to expand. So you want to give a little summary of that, John? Paragraph 6.
Oh yeah.
Key
Forgot
points.
what it was now. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So what it's saying here is to think that we can oppose, and why would we do so? The will of God is taking us down a rabbit hole that we will, with difficulty, come out. We're potentially going to get lost in for a long time. And actually, there's some sentences that are jumping out now. Actually, when you do not use it, you forget you have it.
So use it or lose it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the vernacular saying, but it's true. If you don't use something, then you forget about it, and you forget that you have it.
Yeah.
And so now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, let's use these laws of God in every situation. Use the law of oneness as your foundation on which you base all of your decisions.
Yes.
And that then is how God and the Holy Spirit guides you in this world to make all these these choices, which seem to be quite confusing. But if oneness is dictating them all, then it's very simple. Okay, there's one principle behind it all. Without exception, I base my decisions on that. And then the art of this is to just be aware enough to go, okay, yes, I know what oneness is in this situation. I know what oneness looks like in this situation.
Yeah.
And not get confused by the ego, which is trying to give you an alternative.
So what this paragraph is saying is, remember the laws of God and apply them in order not to be diverted by egoic temptations and forgetting God, forgetting oneness.
The healing is a way of approaching knowledge. Okay, so remember, knowledge is just a state in which you are in pure formless awareness. There's nothing else. That's all that's there. But you approach knowledge, you approach that state by thinking in accordance with the laws of God or oneness. Okay? So still in the domain of thought, belief, perception, but you're now thinking and you're applying these laws to your life as you perceive it in this world.
Yeah.
And that's the way to bring the mind more and more into accord with pure formless awareness.
And I'm increasingly aware of the importance of realigning one's mind constantly throughout the day, and exercising that, as Ken call it, the decision maker.
Choosing the laws of oneness over the laws of the ego. If you look at any split, any decision, there's only ever two. If you can really see, there's only two ways of seeing it and interpreting it in every situation, because there's only two thought systems. You can see it through the eyes of separation, the ego, or you can see it through the eyes of oneness, the Holy Spirit. And your interpretation and your perception of it is going to be different depending on which one you choose.
Yeah.
And then your decisions and your actions follow from that.
Yeah.
So, it's profoundly life-changing, because if you do this moment by moment, you're going to be thinking differently, perceiving differently, making different decisions. Your life's going to go in a very different direction. From the ego. At every point, you hit a fork in the road. Ego, spirit, which way are you going to go? Well, if you keep taking the spirit, you're going in a very different, opposite direction from what the ego would take you.
Yeah.
If you keep making egoic decisions, you're going in the opposite direction, and one decision leads to another and another. And you see people, who make bad decisions repeatedly. Their lives don't go well. They go in the wrong direction, and they end up in a very, very difficult, challenging circumstances where often they're suffering. And they go, well, how did this happen? Well, it happened because moment by moment you made the wrong choices.
Yeah.
You kept taking the ego's fork in the road, and that systematically led you down a path to now, a place where you're in an impossible situation, because you've systematically denied the truth.
Except there is no impossible situation, because there is no order of difficulties in mirror.
Yeah. So at any point, they find themselves in an impossible situation. They hit the rock bottom, and then they go, well, I can change my mind.
Yeah.
I can actually, at this point, make the choice for the spirit, and I can change my mind. I can start choosing the spirit instead of the ego, because look at where it's led me. So this is often what people have to do. So make the wrong choice repeatedly, eventually get to a situation where it's like, I just can't do this anymore. It's so difficult and painful. And so I need to change. I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to change my mind.
Yeah.
And that's when the transformation often happens. But what Jesus is saying is, look, you don't have to do that. You can just make these choices moment by moment in your day.
Yeah.
Just start without huge pain and suffering. You can just start to see with discernment, what's coming from the ego. Tail in your face. Hello, Brody. How are you?
He actually hurt his paw this morning. He fell very awkwardly, but I had some arnica, so he's better now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
See, he's waving his tail.
Yeah, he's waving his tail. He says, I'm good.
Hello. Yeah. It's picking up the energy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I lost my train of thought now. So shall we move on?
Yeah, let's go to the next
number
one.
6?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking about the transformation. So this way, just to finish up on that, this way, the way of mastery, I call it, is a way, way better way than just doing the ego over and over again and getting to a point where you're just in such pain and suffering that then a transformation happens. This is just, no, you don't have to suffer very much, just observe, notice what's ego, what's spirit, and apply it systematically in all of your decisions. And life can actually be very smooth and flow in a really nice direction. And so you're not learning through pain. He says, actually, you don't need to learn through pain. You can learn through the joyous lessons of the Holy Spirit, which are, look, this is working. Amazing. I'm getting miracles. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling connected. I'm feeling in flow. Synchronicities are happening in my life. The two things that start to happen are more and more synchronicities in your life, and more and more of a sense of flow in your life. A lack of worry. I think Deepak Chopra said there's two things in the Eastern teachings. First of all, lack of worry. So you're not worrying about stuff anymore. Your will is free. You just, I'm just in the moment. I'm present. And the second one is the appearance of these synchronicities, which of course we'd call miracles. Like things just start happening. You go, oh wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how that happened, but you meet the right person at the right time. Something pops into your email box. It's exactly what you needed. These kinds of things start to show up more and more. And so you're learning happy lessons. You go, wow, this is actually quite cool. I'm learning to be in flow, and life can actually be a happy dream. Although it's not heaven, it can be a happy dream if I keep choosing the Holy Spirit's interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best we can do here. It's never going to be heaven, but it can be we can have a taste of heaven. It can be a reflection of heaven, because we're continuously making the choice for oneness. That's bringing more and more of this pure formless awareness, the state of heaven, more and more into our minds. We're more and more correcting our minds. And so it becomes a happy journey back to God. And that's really the best we can do here.
Right, a sort of nearest approximation we can make it.
Yes, exactly. And you understand that it's not the ultimate destination. As he says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Right? Kingdom of heaven is the state of pure formless awareness.
Yeah.
So we know that that's where we're going. But while we're here, we can have a happy dream. We can have a happy perceptual dream. We still recognize that perception isn't the ultimate truth, but the truth is with us always. It goes with us wherever we go, and we interpret our lives according to that truth. And that's the best we can do in a world of illusion. But ultimately, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, the state of pure formless awareness, because that is where the laws of God operate truly. Okay, that's where there's no contradiction. It's only those laws operate there, and there's nothing else. And they can operate only truly because they are the laws of truth. Yeah, okay, kind of self-evident, but he's stating the self-evident to us because we've forgotten the self-evident. Truth is true and nothing else is true. That seems to be such an obvious statement, and yet we've forgotten that. And we've made something else true, and now we've got a conflict in our mind. But seek this only, because you can find nothing else.
There's a new concept in this John, about inspiration, which I think would be good to add to the glossary.
Okay. Let's have a look. THI. Oh, we don't actually have an I. How's that? So
yeah.
I copy this. What happens? Copy.
Insert an extra box.
Need to insert a row.
Yeah.
Insert a row above. There we go. Okay. So inspiration. Verse 2. The Holy Spirit's. Let's change it. Should we say the guidance of the Holy Spirit?
Yeah.
Guidance of the Holy Spirit / remembrance of oneness.
Is it worth adding something in there that says it comes apparently from nowhere when we are connected with Spirit?
We say the guidance of the Holy Spirit and the remembrance of oneness. I think that the idea of inspiration is that it helps you navigate through this world.
Yes.
With that, to help you navigate through this world. I suppose you could just be in an inspired state and feel that connection with Source. That could also be inspiration. But usually inspiration is the idea that there's some kind of action. I'm inspired to do something.
Yeah.
So inspiration versus motivation. The ego is motivated by egoic goals, by an outcome,
Yeah.
whereas the spirit is inspired by this principle of oneness. So it's an inside out rather than outside in. I'm inspired by these laws. I'm inspired by this presence in me, and now that inspiration guides me to do various things in the world, to make certain decisions, to do various things, which beats motivation any day. Because it's not about the external result. You're not motivated by getting an external result. You're inspired by the spirit that's guiding you. It's saying, do this and forget the outcome. I'll guide this. I'll take care of the outcome. Do this because it feels like the right thing to do. And that is the essence of the flow state. You know, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi was the world's leading expert on flow, defined flow as a state of mind where there's no attachment to outcome. You've actually let go of the outcome.
Yes, yeah, I think that's what
you're doing it for the joy of doing it. That activity has value just simply because of the doing of it.
Can we add
attachment to outcome?
Can we add that at the end, without attachment to outcome?
To help you navigate through this world. Yeah, we can. Without attachment to the outcome. So we could say the opposite of the ego's motivation, opposite of egoic motivation, based on a desired outcome in form. So if you look at the the whole personal growth movement, usually it's associated with some kind of outcome.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you're gonna change your life, and it's all about you want more money, you want a better relationship, you want a better body, better health. There's some kind of form outcome, and then you set a goal to achieve that. Oh, yes, I'd like to make $1 million. I'd like to get a 6-pack, and you set that as an outcome, and then you move towards that outcome. You take decisions, you take actions to get the desired outcome. That's egoic motivation based on form outcome. Which can, people do it, but typically it's not that sustainable. You tend to find people falling off that wagon very quickly, of the goal setting, and because they haven't actually fundamentally changed their identity. So let's say you want to lose weight. Let's say you're 20 pounds overweight. You want to lose weight, and you say, right, I have this desired outcome to lose the weight, and you just do it on the level of, well, and why do you want to lose weight? Because I want to look good. I feel like I'm flabby. Summer's coming. I want to go onto the beach and not feel ashamed of my body, and I want to look good for my partner. So it's all form based, but you haven't actually changed your identity as a fat person. You haven't changed any of the things that trigger you to eat. So you're feeling emotionally uncomfortable, and then you go to the fridge and you eat because so you don't change any of that, and then you have the form-based outcome. It's not going to work because it's not inspired. Whereas the inspiration of the Holy Spirit will say, well, these thoughts and emotions that cause you to overeat are simply not true. So look at the discomfort, look at those thoughts and emotions, and look at the identity that's behind them, and let that go.
Yeah.
And then you'll lose the weight because you simply won't need to feel the need to overeat.
I think another example is in business, where people spend ages doing business plans.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a business plan that's been.
They never play out the way they.
No. And people put endless amounts of it. I mean, I know organisations that spend the whole of January building up business plans.
Yeah.
By per department.
Yeah.
And and build up the year's budgets on the basis of that. It's complete. You lose a month of the year.
Yeah. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in the flow, you go, well, what is our purpose? See, this is what really an inspired organization would be, one that, well, we know our purpose. Our purpose doesn't change. We have a very clear purpose. Everyone knows the purpose. We're all on purpose, in the same purpose. And we come to work and we make decisions based on that purpose. And that guides us. We don't need a business plan.
No.
But it's a it's a different way of thinking, isn't it? The ego versus, and you see these don't reconcile in any way, shape, or form. The ego's way of doing business and the spirit's way of doing business are going to be opposite. They're going to be very, very, very different because you can't reconcile them. So, from a worldly point of view, there is enormous opportunity to bring this inspiration of the Holy Spirit into whatever your field is, whether it's business, it's sport, it's art. You bring it in, and it's a different way of doing things. It's a different way of seeing things. It's a different way of approaching it, and it adds a huge amount of value because it's based on the laws of truth. So, that then becomes the opportunity for each one of us. Okay, Iona, you're an artist. How does the spirit use the art and reinterpret that for people in a way that's going to help them to heal their minds? So that's a different perspective of art. I mean, art from the egoic perspective is, oh, isn't that a nice, pretty painting on the wall? Oh, and if it's an expensive painting by a well-known artist, then even better, because then, there's all the kudos that goes along with that. And it's not really.
It's a world that I have never cracked. I've never cracked it, and I have had really countless galleries saying, "I don't know what to do with your work. It doesn't sit alongside everybody else." And I'm thinking, right, okay, solo show, organize it yourself again, because it. And also making the name, getting the big bucks. Well, it will happen, but not in the way that I can have understood it on an egoic level. No. I always knew that it was going to be a different route. But when I'm teaching, that whole thing about non-attachment to outcome, just art for art's sake, doing it for the joy of doing it. And even though some people's egos can get confused by it, and they say, well, what do I do with this piece of paint? You don't have to do anything, but you did it.
Because the process itself was the point.
Exactly, the whole process was the point.
Yeah. Because there's healing that comes about in the process.
Yeah.
If you have the form outcome, you have a painting. But now that painting or whatever it is can be used to remind you of that process and remind you of the state of mind that you attained through the process.
And it's actually deeply helpful, even if you're not going to carry on your painting, whatever you are. Like there was a woman who came along, she was an acupuncturist. And she left her paintings with me. So it might not be important to her in form, but the whole process that she experienced was the flow process. It's called creative flow, the teaching.
Yeah, because it taps into to this universal inspiration. And it's a modality that allows that to now come through in that form of the painting. But it's really about, ultimately things are only meaningful because they connect you with spirit.
Yeah.
They connect you with your source. So it's not about the form or the painting. It's about, there's a process of healing here.
Yeah.
And then the painting as the result of that might be a very inspired painting. And people might see the painting and go, wow, that heals me too. That connects with me on a deeper level. And it inspires me to go deeper into my mind. And, because that's then the product of that process of healing that you went through. So what you've got here, Iona, is a blue ocean. If you understand a business terminology, John, this is probably familiar to you. There's something called blue ocean strategy. They say don't go in the red ocean where everyone else is scrumming around fighting for scraps in an existing market that's overcrowded, because you're not gonna really succeed there. It's difficult to succeed. Create your own market. Create a blue ocean, right? So you've got an opportunity to create another market in art, right? This is spiritual art. This is about healing art. Is anyone really doing that? I'm sure maybe they are, maybe they're not, but maybe not the way you would do it.
Not the way that I'm bringing in, the power of clearing that I was trained in, and not the way that I use the language from Course in Miracles. No. No.
So then it becomes your unique thing, and that's it. There's nowhere else they can get this. It's unique to you. You've created your own unique product / service. And people pay a premium for that because they can't get it anywhere else. It doesn't exist anywhere else.
It has hit a mark.
Yeah. So then on the level of form, it can work as well. But but it's inspired. It's not, oh, well, I want the bucks and I want the fame. And it's no, I like the only purpose of this is the healing. And that's the true purpose. And then I trust that the outcome on the level of form will be right. I'll be guided in terms of financial decisions, money, business, all of that is secondary. It's still, you've got to pay some attention to it, but it's secondary. It's secondary to the purpose.
Yeah.
So it's inside out. And this is why this kind of transformation process is so powerful as a business thing as well. Because if you're an entrepreneur, it all comes from you. It's your purpose that's being reflected in the business. If you're not clear about who you are and what your purpose is, then how can you expect your business to be successful? It's not possible. Because you're going to be conflicted. You're going to have, I've got purpose, but actually I want to make money. Okay, well, which is it? Is the purpose of business to make money? Or is the purpose of business to serve its customers? And it's a fundamental split in the mind. You can't have both of those purposes primary.
Actually, just as an aside, in the world of art then, I mean, great paintings like Picasso's Guernica and the Scream, Munch's Scream, are they healing? I mean, they're very moving paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Are they of spirit, or are they of ego, or are they of,
I think it's how you want to see them. It's up to the perceiver. But I think the artist, like a great painting, great art has something in it that's deeper, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's something that artist has tapped into and expressed in the painting.
Yeah.
That then carries through in the painting on the level of form. And people can see that and go, okay, this evokes an emotion, I suppose. It's an emotional
I think if an artist can speak to a universal truth in all of us, then the artist has done his work. So with the Scream, it was it's so powerful, and it can be taken on by each individual to read it in their own way.
And I think with the Scream, there's for me, it reflects or portrays the internal angst that we all suffer from.
Yeah.
Some more than others.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at it, shall we? The Scream painting.
Right. Monk, as in Munch. Yeah, there it is. So much is read into it with the vivid colors, the bridge, the people walking away, this unbearable grief expression on the face of that sort of alien-like creature. I mean, in many ways, I would say that that's a very rapidly executed painting. It's so loose. But that's
what it symbolizes.
Yeah, but it's so in flow that it's probably a moment when the artist has stood back and said, "Whoa, where did that I just channeled that. I don't know where that came from."
Yeah. I think that's. What about Guernica?
Well, yeah. Picasso was already a big name.
Guernica painting.
He was already extremely advanced in his career, so his painting had real kudos. He signed a napkin and off it went to sell for $10. So that whatever he was going to paint was going to be enormous. But he had the passion, the Spanish heritage, the fire, the reputation, the enormous studio. Wow, he was in a position to have an audience. He had an audience, all right.
Interesting. So what is that actually saying? You're like, well, it's quite a lot of interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, this small village was completely flattened with all its ugliness and the rearing horse's head and the dismembered bodies and the feet and the dying. There's almost a kind of Dali-esque head there as well. You know, the surrealism, that was enormous movement at this time. I mean, it can be seen as ugly, powerful, and from my own little experience, well, it was a big experience for me, but when I was painting about war at Stirling Castle, 3 different enormous battles. The last time the British king was killed in battle, and then the Battle of Bannockburn, and then the travails of the Mother of Mary Queen of Scots. My God, the appetite for blood and gore and despair, and it was endless. Sold all of these paintings. You know, it's almost like we need a reminder in art of this is about the egoic world, isn't it?
Yeah, which is, you know, can be very helpful reminder to let it go. So I don't want. I mean, this is a nightmare. This is a painting. Very fragmented. Things all over the place. It's like if you were having this internally, you would say, I'm in a nightmare here. This is awful images and, you know, horrendous. It's all fragmented, which is obviously part of the effect. It's all very fragmented, separate and split, and it's just this horrendous images being portrayed in you know, in one painting. But there's no unification really. That's why you struggle to make sense of it.
Well, he was an absolutely brilliant artist, because some of his tender drawings are just worlds away from this. He could paint everything because he allowed the spirit through.
So this was to show the ego's world and just how horrific it is. And there's a value in that as well.
Yeah, there is. We don't need to like it.
No, I guess is it evocative? Does it evoke emotion? That's really the key. I guess a poor painting would be like, well, you know, either way, I don't really feel anything about it. It's like whatever.
Well,
does it evoke an emotion?
Does it in you?
Yeah, I think so. It's like, whoa, that's quite.
I'm just looking at something here. It says, it's his most powerful political statement, painted as an immediate reaction to the Nazis' devastating casual bombing practice on the Basque town of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War.
So he would have been painting rage and anger and tears, and he was Spanish himself.
And it was real time. He painted this, what, a year or two after the event?
1937. So it was during the Spanish Civil War.
Just saying, you know, what is this? What's going on here? So it's quite an uncomfortable painting. I look at it and it's like, oh, these are not comfortable images. It's kind of, there's a sense of dis-ease when you look at it.
Yeah, that's good, and that's what it was. That was what it was about. Trying to put form to a nameless horror.
Yeah. Representative, and I like the fragmentation. Now you can see, look at the fragmentation of this. There's no unity in this. It's all fragmented and separate, and people are dying and it's suffering, and it really symbolizes the world of the ego very well, I think, as a painting. Just probably why it's been a classic. They go, because it evokes that, it taps into that, you know, part of our minds that's egoic, and goes, okay, but now what's the awareness that's able to look at the painting and just observe it and say, okay, but there's an awareness that's beyond this, that's aware of, you know, that's aware of these thoughts and emotions that the painting evokes, but is beyond them.
So here, Picasso said it meant brutality and darkness. Reminiscent of his own prophetic.
So to return to there's a bit of a divergence, but interesting.
Very.
That the Spirit can then remember the Holy Spirit has to show you the world of the ego as well, and reinterpret it, and say, okay, so really look. If you really look at it and you really see it honestly,
Yeah,
then
there
you
you
can
go.
choose against it.
Picasso is showing us brutality and darkness.
Yeah.
Very,
So
very
that we can
clearly.
make another choice and say this is not what we want.
Yeah.
Why do we keep choosing war when this is what it is? It adds no value. It's not anything that we want. As he says, you do not want it. So when you choose the ego, you choose this. I mean, just like this would be a powerful reminder. You have a print of this. Like, okay, when I choose the ego, I choose this. Oh my God, no, that's I don't want to make that choice. Because that's what you're choosing. You're choosing the whole thought system. You can't have a little bit of it.
Ugly.
So even a little egoic irritation with someone, you choose this. That's what it means. You choose all of this. The irritation is this. And so it's useful to remind yourself, look, actually, when I'm irritated with someone, it's actually intense rage and anger and hatred and attack and killing and death. That's what this means. That's the thought system that underlies my irritation.
I mean, I think it's
vividly portrayed in this painting.
I think it's far more useful to have this type of imagery than what happens on November the 11th, when everybody kind of glosses over the brutality of war and salutes heroes and makes up stories to glorify war.
So somehow this was all, I mean, World War I was just the most pointless, futile war. It's like, what are you doing? Just for no reason, just all this killing and bloodshed. And World War II, as we said, you could argue, okay, well, you've got a psychopath who's trying to take over the world. Okay, well, what are you going to do on the level of form? Are you going to allow that, or are you going to fight? But just most wars, just senseless, just stupid, idiotic, ridiculous, insane thinking that's led to it. And then all this suffering and pain for no reason at all. It's just there's no valid reason for it. Look at the war in the Ukraine, completely senseless. There's absolutely no need for it. Just some mad despot's desire to go and conquer another territory because he wants more land. I don't know. What is his justification for it? I mean, just I want more. I want to own the Ukraine or something. I mean, it's just senseless and cause all this pain and misery and suffering because I want more land. I mean, it's just insane. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I think that comes through quite nicely in this painting. Just the senselessness of it. It's like, what's the point of this?
Well, darkness and destruction.
For no reason. As he says, the law, the ego's laws are meaningless. How do you make sense of this? You don't. It's just meaningless.
No.
It has no meaning. You can't justify it. You can't make a meaning out of it. Don't try and do that. Just see it for the senseless. I think that's also what he portrays well here. Is it's a meaningless world. This is meaningless. It has no sense to it. You can't really make sense of the painting because it's a senseless world that it's depicting. Okay, moving swiftly on to number 7. I think it's Iona.
Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, the domain of heaven.
The state
of heaven.
Of pure formless awareness.
Seek ye first the state of pure formless awareness. Sorry, I haven't eaten for a long time. I'm beginning to feel a bit lightheaded.
Okay.
Because that is where the laws of pure formless awareness operate truly, and they can operate only truly because they are the laws of truth. But seek this only because you can find nothing else. There is nothing else. Pure formless awareness is all in a very literal sense. All being is in it, who is all being. You are therefore in pure formless awareness, since your being is it. Healing is a way of forgetting the sense of danger the ego has induced in you by not recognizing its existence in your brother. This strengthens the awareness of oneness in both of you because it is a refusal to acknowledge fear. Love needs only this invitation. It comes freely to all the extensions, being what the extension is. By your awakening to it, you are merely forgetting what you are not. This enables you to remember what you are.
Okay, anything stand out for you?
Reiteration of that point that we have to forget in order to recognize again.
We must forget to remember.
You know, we must forget in order to remember. Yes, exactly.
Remember. So you are remembering. If you
Yes.
remembering the sonship, its fragmented parts now become whole through the remembering, right?
Yes.
You'll become a member of the sonship. The
That
words are
picture
actually
Guernica
quite...
is actually perfect to illustrate all of this. It was a very good call, John. You know, the fragmentation of the horses and the cows and the people there. And, you know, we can bring them back together in our mind to make it a whole horse and a whole cow and a whole human there. Yeah.
I think this painting symbolizes fragmentation and separation really well.
Basically, yeah. So we can, it's like us, isn't it? And when we forget, then we remember, and then we remember our wholeness and our that we are pure formless awareness. We are the sonship.
We remember our being, like who are we really? So you must forget what you're not. If the ego has taught you that you are what you're not, you must forget what it's taught you. You must forget that false identity in order to remember who you are.
Yeah.
Remember what you are. Makes complete sense. But he's spelling it out so clearly because we got so confused.
Yeah.
Although this is totally logical when you look at it, you know that you can't really fault the logic of Jesus and the Holy Spirit.
No, but as he
You know,
says,
he has to spell it out because we've forgotten and we've gone into all kinds of twisted logic that seems to justify
earlier on that the ego is as unified as the Holy Spirit. So it's bloody strong.
No, because once you have the idea in separation, you know, this thought system, let's just bring up our little diagram. This thought system, from the foundation of it, if you accept that separation is true, then all of this holds.
Yeah.
That's a fundamental premise. I am separate from love, right? I am my own individual idea. That premise creates all of this. So the logic of the ego is impeccable, as he says, based on the premise of it. If you accept the premise of separation, then all of this has to happen. So that's why you can only break it at its foundation. You can only go, okay, but its foundation is not true. The idea of being separate from love, which underpins all of these horrible effects, is not true.
That's it.
That thought of separation is not true, however it plays out on the level of form. And that's the only way out of this. Otherwise, it seems to be true, and it seems to be this unbreakable thought system, and you're caught up in it, and you have to question it at its foundation, which is what forgiveness does. Radical forgiveness does that. Radical forgiveness says, let's go to the root of this. In every situation, look at the core. The core of it is separation. Right? So I've got an issue in my life. Someone's being nasty to me, you know, and I want to judge them, and I want to be upset, and I want to attack them. Okay, but let's look at the root of it. The root of this is separation. It's my own belief in separation. If I believe this, then I will get angry and I will get upset and I will want to attack them and so on, because that makes the separation real. But there's another way of looking at this, because the idea of separation isn't true. So if I see that, I can let it all go and say, no, none of this happened. And in fact, they just, in the dream, they're just the projection of my own belief in separation that's coming back to apparently attack me but it's actually my own attack. I've attacked myself. So then, this is what the Holy Spirit does. It just reinterprets what's happening, and to undo this, to show you that this is all spurious. This is false logic, and that actually you want to accept oneness in every situation.
Yeah.
And that's the healing. As you do this systematically, you forget the ego. You forget the sense of danger the ego is induced in you by not recognize its existence in your brother. It simply doesn't exist. There is no danger. There is no threat.
No.
You are not under threat ever, because the truth of your true nature is not affected by any of this. None of this is true. So even if your brother seems to be threatening you, you simply go, this isn't the case. He can't really threaten my true being. You can only threaten what's an illusion. So if I feel threatened, then I must be believing in an illusion of myself rather than the truth. And so you see just how cunning, the ego is massively cunning. This whole thought system feeds into itself, and it's self-perpetuating. But fortunately, we have the way out, and that's that the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And this enables you to forget what you're not and remember what you are.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is, you are this and you are not this. And in the end, that's what it comes down to. Which identity do you choose? Do you choose to be separate, or do you choose to be one? And that choice makes all the difference. Okay. So any questions on number 7 or on the whole thing?
Oh, this is chapter 7:4. Okay.
Yeah. Healing is the
Healing.
recognition of truth. Do you want to give us a little summary of this, Iona? Like, what are the key points in this section?
The whole thing.
Yeah. And there's one key message really that came through for me.
You have to either you can't be an ego and accept the oneness.
The healing, to me, the key point is healing is the forgetting. It's the forgetting of the ego's laws and the remembering of oneness, and then applying oneness in your perception of the world. And that simple process of forgetting the ego's laws will be the remembering of oneness, and that heals your mind. That takes you back to pure formless awareness. I think that for me was the key point of healing. You must forget the recognition of truth. Yeah, so recognizing the truth.
Yeah. I think the message is very much in the title, isn't it? Healing as the recognition of truth.
Yeah. It's a good title. So as you recognize, in other words, you forget the falsity and you recognize the truth, then this is the healing of your mind. And healing is of the mind and not of the body. It's not got anything to do with the body.
Yes.
Even though it might have body effects, the healing is in the mind, to heal the idea of separation.
Excellent.
Okay, so shall we do a meditation?
I really need to go have something to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to take 2 minutes, get something to drink, and come back, or do you want to time out?
Just start away, and I'll I'll update it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Back in a minute.
All right. So just making yourself comfortable, sitting feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Feel the energy rising up the spine into your heart center. If you like, you can put one hand on your heart, just to connect in with your heart space. Draw the energy up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. And now just bring to mind anyone whom you have not forgiven yet. John, you mentioned you have still some residual kind of negative feeling towards a couple of people in your life. And you're going to bring that up. Notice the thoughts, notice the emotions, notice any body sensations. Breathe into it again, just to create some space. Observe those thoughts and emotions. And now say to yourself, God, or Pure Formless Awareness, is the love in which I forgive you. And then name the person. So God, or Pure Formless Awareness, is the love in which I forgive you. And name them. And then exhale. Have a sense of just releasing whatever that thought and that emotion was. So in the end, it's your own block to the awareness of love's presence. That's the problem. So you just release it. You let it go, blowing it out of your body and your mind. Imagine it's like a dark smoke leaving you. Pull the low stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Just rest here in peace and stillness for a few moments. Remind yourself that God, or Pure Formless Awareness, is the love in which I forgive myself. Stated in our terms, God, Pure Formless Awareness, is the love through which I let go of all of my blocks to the awareness of its presence. So when I forgive myself, I let go of the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, and that presence restores itself in my awareness. I'm once again aware of that awareness as my own awareness. That is what forgiving yourself really means. Simply letting go of what blocks that awareness. Now just add some related ideas. So breathing in and out through your nose. Slow, gentle, rhythmical breaths. Add some related ideas. Such as God, or Pure Formless Awareness, is the love with which I love myself. God, or Pure Formless Awareness, is the love in which I am blessed. And whatever else comes to mind. Try and keep to the central idea. So you might say, for example, I cannot be guilty because I am a son of God. I'm an extension of love itself, which knows no guilt. Guilt implies some kind of error, some kind of wrongdoing that I need to be punished for. This does not exist in love. You could say to yourself, I've already been forgiven. Stated another way, God, Pure Formless Awareness, has no judgment of me. Judgment is not a state that Pure Formless Awareness knows about. So therefore you've already been forgiven. This is grace. Doesn't matter what you think you've done. The grace of Pure Formless Awareness is given you. No fear is possible in a mind beloved of God. No fear is possible in a mind beloved of Pure Formless Awareness. There's no need to attack because love has forgiven me. And whatever other ideas come to mind, just let them spontaneously arise for a minute or two. Keep watching your breath as the underlying foundation. So you're very present in the present moment. And then whatever arises is coming from the source of your mind, the present awareness. That is the spirit, remembrance of the awareness of pure formless awareness. So now just sink into your mind, going deeper into your mind. Remind yourself of the idea, God or pure formless awareness is the love in which I forgive. This is the love in which I forgive. And just feel that love. Feel it directly. When you let go of all the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, then what's left is love's presence. So just go there now. Sinking inwards to this deeper love beyond the ego's blocks, beyond any thoughts of condemnation, anger, resentment, lies the pure formless awareness that you truly are. So let this awareness arise in your mind. There's nothing else to do, there's nowhere else to go. Nothing else to think about. Just surrender him to the love. Love that is beyond this world. Unconditional love, perfect love, pure formless awareness. In the end, it doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is you experience it. So just allow yourself to experience it. Give yourself the opportunity. Just watch your breath. Observe the breath flowing into and out of your nostrils. Keep your mind in the present moment. And then in the present moment, you can allow this love to come through very powerfully. So just surrender to this love, the love of God, your own pure formless awareness for the next few minutes of deep silence. If any thoughts arise, just observe them casually. Anything that feels like a block to the awareness of this spacious awareness, this pure formless awareness. So just observe that, remind yourself, God, pure formless awareness, is the love in which I forgive this, in which I let this go. It's a person, you can say, pure formless awareness is the love in which I forgive you and name them. It's a situation or an event, so pure formless awareness is the love in which I let go of this. It's the foundation, it's the base state that letting go reveals, that underlies the world of form. So just exhale out, blow all of these blocks away. Imagine they're like dark clouds just being blown away by the breeze of your breath into the nothingness they really are. And you surrender into the oneness, to the love that you truly are. For another few minutes of deep silence. So just gently coming back, this deep state of awareness. Bring your awareness back into the body, into the senses, into the world. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And you feel a warm wave of energy rising up the spine. Breathe in again, it's maximal inhale breath. Raise the energy up into the spine, to the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. So just check in and scan your mind. So just noticing any thoughts, any emotions going on there. Particularly anything that feels negative, limiting. If anyone comes to mind, remind yourself that God or love, pure formless awareness, He is the love in which I forgive you. And name them, and then remind yourself that God is the love. Pure formless awareness is the love in which I forgive myself. And you exhale, exhaling it all out. And you go into the nothingness that it really is. And the airflow out, noticing the chest and the stomach sucking back in. Rest your attention on the lower stomach and the groin. Notice the weight of your body. The count of 2, pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling with your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. Maybe a smell in your nose. And notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. But without judgment, whatever the sounds are, you just allow them to arise and then pass away. Just arising and passing away without any attachment. Notice that same awareness that was there when you're closing your eyes is still there when you're coming back into sense perceptions. The underlying awareness, the ground of being, underlies all perception. You're connecting with it right now. So on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, noticing the various objects in the room around you in this very calm, detached way. Notice the underlying peace that comes with this perception. Anchor this state in for the rest of the evening, and to help you to top up, Jesus recommends you remind yourself of this idea frequently. And you just repeat the idea for today in the original form. God, or pure formless awareness, is the love which I forgive. And if there's someone specifically that comes to mind, then apply it to them. God is the love in which I forgive you. And use that to help you to let go of any block in awareness of love's presence, which is all you're doing. So you can practice that yourself or listen to one of the breath breaks. I've sent you a 3-minute breath break to help you do that. There's also a 10-minute one I'd recommend listening to once more, maybe before bed, just to top you up on this and keep you connected to the love that is your source and your salvation. So that brings us to the end of the session, end of the meditation, end of the session. There's no session tonight, so I'll see you again tomorrow afternoon, I hope.
Thank you, Jonah.
Yeah, my pleasure, Iona. Thank you, John.
See you,
Yeah,
John.
thank you very much, Jono. Thank you, Iona.
See you.
Namaste.